ask her how she get it. Made a couple racks, I never asked her how she get it. City girls love to have fun in the city. City girls love to have fun in the city. City girls love to have fun in the city. City girls love to have fun in the city.
Welcome to Connect with Christina, episode 7. Look who we have here, Dr. LeBaron.
What's up?
I literally just had to say it like that. I don't think I've introduced anyone that way, but this is Dr.
I like
LeBaron.
special introductions.
There you go.
You know?
I obviously know you. A lot of our friends know you, but tell them who you are.
Dr. Scott LeBaron, chiropractor, Mesa, 18 years, with the focus on personal injury, is basically, what else you want?
And that you're a vampire too.
Yeah.
Because you don't look your age.
Right.
And he's not part Asian, so this is, we don't know what happened.
Asians to a certain point, I always say. And then they transition from super young looking to they're 100 years old all of a sudden.
Don't scare me.
But it's true.
Because that sounds scary.
That comes straight from Joe Coy comedy special. So
which
on
we
Netflix.
Have to watch together.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing that lately, and that scares me.
He's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Because he's Asian, and
right. He's half.
He's half Asian, and I think he's Filipino.
No, he is.
Yes.
He's
Filipino. So he talks about how the Mexican culture and the Filipino culture
right.
are so similar. Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, so I don't want to entertain that thought because I like looking young. So please,
yeah.
don't tell me. I have to be the exception.
Right.
Doc, isn't it true your father was also?
Yeah. So
Dr.
second
LeBaron?
generation chiropractor. Yep. Yeah. He stopped practicing probably about 5 years ago. Yeah.
5 years? I thought it was a little longer.
Well, he officially 5 years ago. And I bought everything out from him. Probably, he probably stopped practicing a lot longer ago than that. But officially, he really, he doesn't even come in the office anymore. That's been about 5 years or so. So
it's crazy though. That office. How many years in that office?
So the office has been around at least 40 years. And Edna's been with us 40 years,
Shout out Edna.
Shout out Edna, because she's been with us the whole time. Actually, she came on a year after my dad started practice, and she's still with me. So that's how long Edna's been with us, so we have to shout her out. But yeah, we've been since, I think, 1976 or 1977 or 8. It's one of those years.
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah. So I was when my dad was in chiropractic college in Iowa, so that's where I was born. But LeBarons have pretty much been in Mesa since the beginning. So, I think my great grandpa was like the first motorcycle cop or something in Mesa, right? So we've been there forever. But yeah.
Yeah, we do see LeBaron everywhere.
Yeah, there's a few companies, and we're spreading out,
Yeah, I've seen, just driving by, I told you, I'm like, LeBaron here, LeBaron on Main Street, on Southern.
Well, and a lot of people know LeBaron name from the colonies in Mexico even. So I always tell everybody, I don't know any of those people, but all LeBarons are related. Because it's an interesting story. The original LeBaron actually came across from France and changed his name to LeBaron. So we really don't even know what our official name is, French name. But all LeBarons are related. They came from the one guy. So there's some in Canada, some came across the plains.
Crazy.
Isn't it crazy? And then some, if you ever watched the movie, went down to Mexico. So
wait, what movie?
So, well, it's a bad movie.
Okay, but I should watch it.
Yeah, well, it's about Earl LeBaron. You probably should watch it, but he was a polygamous cult member. So that was like a cousin related to my grandpa or something. Yeah, far. So I don't know any of those side, but we are all related. I do need to go down to the colonies. I say that all the time, and I never have done it.
All right, so now he's gonna have to.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
gonna have to.
And they do sometimes. Some come up and they come and see me. So I have met quite a few. They'll come in to see me at my practice or whatever. So I've met quite a few, and they look just like me. So I know we're related.
Wow.
Yeah, I know we're related in some facts.
Well, I know you guys are. I mean, like I said, I'm from East Mesa even, and like the West Mesa area. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it that way, but it's growing too fast. So we're getting drowned out.
I want to go back to Edna, though.
Okay.
I mean, so how many years?
At least 40. So I gave her...
so that means you were a baby, because I remember a picture of you in the office on your dad's.
So it was
Wow.
hard for her when I took over, because she's watched me grow and as a little kid run around the office to her boss. So it was
Right.
a little struggle in the beginning. I don't think she
Sure.
liked me very much, but I think she loves me now. I've won her
She
over.
does.
Yeah. So
She protects you.
yeah, she does. She absolutely.
And so that's what. So how many years? I said that like asked so many times. How many years? Because it's not registered.
I don't know exactly how many
So, like,
years.
35 or 40
40 plus.
plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, you never find that.
No, it's very rare. And as a joke, I actually gave her a watch on the 40th year. I can't remember the person's name, but a high-end watch. Like the cops do when you retire. I gave her a watch. She thought it was hilarious, but it's a nice watch, and I gave her a watch
Right.
at her 40th, and we threw her like a short
I
party.
told her we need to make the massage room or like Edna room, like put a label on it. You know? I mean, because even we were just talking about it before the podcast. It's so hard to find people to
Yes,
work.
it is. So it's very, it's very rare that a person even stays at a job for very long. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she's so dedicated to the office. I always tease everybody, she is my office wife.
Right.
100%. And I have to run everything by Edna before I make a change, right?
Right.
And my wife will actually state that don't ask me, ask Edna, right? When it comes to the office,
Yes.
it's actually quite funny. She'll say, I don't want to step on Edna's toes.
Wow.
Right. So, yeah.
Well, when she sees this podcast, she will. You could tell her thank you. And
Right.
what are the best things? I know there's a few things that we all love about Edna, but what would you say is the things that really resonate with you all these times?
So I don't do details,
Okay.
right? I'm macro, man. I'm big, or whatever you want to say it. But when it comes to the small little things, she does all of that, so I don't have to do it. She also manages the office, so I don't have to manage the office. I can always be the nice guy because Edna doesn't have to be the nice person. So she does all the little things for me that I wouldn't even think of doing.
Right.
She's very detail oriented. She's very, even though if you look at her desk, it doesn't look like she's organized. She's actually pretty organized.
Right. She doesn't miss anything.
No, she doesn't miss anything. And on the attorney end, I think the attorney's offices really love her because she's always keeps them informed.
Right.
This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. They can always call her, text her. They can always email her, whatever, and she's going to respond to them
Right.
pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I don't have to, So, and I told her she can die at her desk only.
gosh.
That's the only way she's allowed to leave. She has to pass away on her desk at the office. So.
Yeah, she does not plan on retiring at all.
Oh,
so
I know. She'd be so bored. I don't think she would. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So was your dad already doing PI when you took over?
Yes.
Like what percentage at the time?
That's a good question. We've always done PI. So I've been in practice 18 years. We've always done that. But I've always done a lot of everything, and I kind of changed my focus probably 4 or 5 years ago to majority of my practice, I would say, is more personal injury focused. I am, have multiple certifications in trauma. That's kind of what I focus on. And patients don't really understand the fact that it really matters how the injuries are documented. That makes all the difference.
Right.
What diagnosis did I give you? Did I document them properly? And do we have the imaging to back that up? Because
Right.
if we don't, it doesn't matter how great the attorney is, he's not going to have a very good, successful recovery.
Right.
In a lot of cases, we need an impairment rating. Without an impairment rating, you really don't get anything. Because people always on they try to say it's all about pain and suffering, but really in a court of law, there's no such thing as pain and suffering. You can't go plead that this person suffered. They don't care. What they care about is what injuries did they have, and are those injuries permanent? And can you prove it? Right. That's where the recovery comes from, not you had pain and suffering.
What is it about personal injury that made you so passionate about it? Because, I know how much you care and how much you want to help people, especially when they are getting taken advantage of. So when did that happen for you?
You couldn't even imagine the things that these insurance adjusters have said to my patients. It's amazing. The half-truths, they quote laws that don't exist. They yell at my patient. It's so crazy. And so I make it a point to educate them their own rights
Right.
because they don't know.
Right.
They often will listen to what this person is telling them, and it's all not true.
Right.
So not only that, but we always, in my opinion, they should always come to the doctor first. That's how I always feel. Because what really matters is what injuries did they occur from this accident, and how are we going to treat those? And not only just get them feeling better, but make sure they're not going to have tons of problems in the future. And that's the key.
Right.
We got to prevent that from occurring.
Well, and I'm glad you're bringing that up, because a lot of times, like I always say, people are resilient and people are good natured, and they don't understand this whole thing. And sometimes they'll come like, I'm fine, but they're not. And what happens when you don't get checked? What happens to you?
Right. So I used to have a study on my wall. Okay, it was about 10 X-ray pictures over 10 years, and what it basically showed is what happens when you get an actual traumatic injury to an area. That area will rapidly degenerate over the next 2 to 10 years. So what we see, what should take 50 or 60 years to occur in a joint space when it comes to degeneration or even a disc, occurs in 5 to 10 years because of that rapid degeneration. So we got to stop that from occurring. That's only with treatment.
That's huge.
Well, you know how many patients have come in, and I look at an X-ray and I'm like, what happened? Were you in an injury, a while ago or 5 years ago? And they'll say, yeah. I said, were you treated? And they'll say, no. And I said, this is why you get treated. We have to now work with what this is at this point. But I make it a point to they understand if they ever are in another traumatic event like that, they should seek treatment to prevent that rapid degeneration from happening.
I think you were one of the first people that taught me that your body can only take so much impact.
Can only take so much. It only can recover so much. So matter, I always say matter can only heal to a certain point, whatever that is. And there's always, that's why impairments exist, is because when you have an injury to a certain extent, you have to label it as an impairment because it's not going to heal fully 100%. Right. The example I like to use is I was treating an NFL football player. This was after he had retired, and he explained it the best. Honestly, he said, I hurt my knee in practice, and he said, I rehab my knee 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. He says that they basically told me this is now your full-time job is to rehab this knee. 8 hours a day they worked on that knee. And I always tell the patient, okay, you're not an NFL football player. We can't work on you 8 hours a day. But imagine we have to do small increments over a longer period of time to get you the same results. You know what I mean? We're not sending you back up on the football field as fast as possible, but we want to make enough healing occur with as least amount of scar tissue, as least amount of joint function as possible, as we can, so that in the future you're not going to have a bunch of problems, and often when I'm in an arbitration and the attorney on the opposite end, oh, that's just a strain, and it's like, would you tell LeBaron James, you just strained your ankle, don't worry about it? Would you say that to him? No, man, this guy's worth $30 million. Now, no, all of us are worth that or whatever, or $100 million, but you have to rehab that strain, or what happens? It's weaker. You know what I mean? It's unstable. You're going to hurt it more often.
It causes other problems.
And then it will cause other issues. The knee has to make up for that ankle, or that hip has to make up for that ankle, or the opposite knee has to make up for that knee, whatever it is. Absolutely.
And Dr. Ledesma was just here the last episode, and he said that to me too, where he said, just because the MRI or the X-ray doesn't show anything doesn't mean a person's not hurt. He brought up scar tissue.
Correct, and I'm about to tell you something nobody wants to hear, and that's the fact that MRIs are about 50% accurate. And some of that is just the radiologist that reads them. There's a lot of error. They actually did a study and found there's a lot of error in the ER and et cetera. So there's maybe a lot of people listening out there that they told them their MRI was fine. I guarantee you, if you had the right radiologist reading that, you probably had injury on that MRI. They just glossed over it. It's very common. So when I send for an MRI, I always tell patients, everything I do is for a specific reason, and I send you to a specific place for a specific radiologist to you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I have to have a correct read on imaging. So yeah, you'll sometimes, and I always say this, that you can't see function on an MRI. You can't see function on an X-ray. You can't see whether that joint is moving normal or not moving normal, and that's why we take flexion extension films where we actually bend them forward, sideways, and we see if there's movement in the vertebrae, because it's ligaments that hold that together, and if there's movement, well, they've been injured. And that's why digital motion X-rays are getting so popular slowly over time. They're just pretty expensive at this point, and there's not very many of them, but I think it'll become more utilized. Right now, it's static bend, and then we use somebody to do what we call a DRMA or a CRMA. So basically, that's a computerized measurement of the what we call an AOMSI, which is alteration of motion segment integrity. Okay.
How do you remember all these?
Right,
things?
that's what I'm saying. And yeah, it's all these weird phrases, but basically, when I'm looking at a flexion extension film with my eye, I can't see if that's a 2 millimeter or a 4 millimeter, whatever movement, but the computer can. So the computer will actually measure that. And if it's over what we say, I think it's 3.5 millimeters of alteration of that motion segment integrity, well, now we have an impairment. 25% impairment. That's what the AMA guides rate that. That's how serious that condition is. How many doctors even look for that? You'd be surprised.
Well, and then talk to me about subluxation. What is that and what happens?
I don't do subluxation. So subluxation is an old chiropractic term. I don't use it. Subluxation medically is like a dislocation. Okay. So actually, I don't even use the term. I don't put it in my paperwork. It really doesn't exist to me. I know other docs use it, and they can, but I don't use that terminology. That doesn't belong in the med legal world. It doesn't. And I've never really used it. We use segmental dysfunction instead, which is medically understandable because I get referrals from medical doctors, I get referrals from pain managers, I get from even surgeons, because they'll see the patient and be like, I don't know if you're not bad enough for surgery yet, but let's do some conservative care first, and we'll do some decompression on that patient. And if they're just not getting the conservative results, we'll send them back to the surgeon and say, hey, you might have to actually, there might be more than what we're seeing, right, on the MRI or whatever. But, if I use that terminology, they wouldn't even understand what I'm talking about. So I don't use it. But everybody understands if I say a segmental dysfunction, the segment's just not moving normal. That's understandable.
Well, and then like on low impact car crashes,
yeah.
It's like I learned that just because it's low impact doesn't mean you don't get hurt.
So I did advanced Croft training on that. So Arthur Croft used to crash cars together. This is years ago, and he actually did human research, which doesn't even allowed now. So this is way back then.
Oh my gosh.
And he used to put a person in a car who would volunteer. I think they paid them, and then they would hit them. And then they would hit them. But we're talking 8 miles an hour. So they would hit them. You would watch this person go flying around in the car, right? And then they would measure all this, all these things, and there would be no damage to the bumper. And why is that? Because the insurance company basically forced the auto industry to create these bumpers that they can withstand 8 to 12 miles an hour because they got tired of paying for the damage, right? So now you can be hit at 8 to 12 miles an hour, which is actually more significant than you think, without any damage to your bumper, and the insurance company wants to tell you, well, there was no damage to your bumper, how can you be injured? And it's like, because all that force went into the person. They should just, those things should just fall in. Right. When you get hit, it should just take all that impact, but the insurance company doesn't want to pay for that, right?
Sure, of course.
So let's make these bumpers more stronger, and then all that force goes into the person. So
it's at 8 miles per hour, 8 to 12
you
miles
wouldn't
an
think.
Hour. What? I mean, because I've had that where, clients are in pain.
Yeah.
So
it's actually very common. And this is the thing, you can't go by damage to a vehicle. But they try to when it's in their favor. Right. But I mean, I've had patients roll over. Okay? Roll over, come out mild strain. We work on it for 3 weeks and they're done. And I'm like, I don't know how you didn't get more injured, right? And then I have people that are rear-ended in a drive-through, at McDonald's or whatever. And what happens is they're sitting there and the person isn't paying attention and they hit their gas and just think it jumps and hits them. Well, that's not a huge force, but it's enough when the person isn't bracing for it or anything to cause that kind of damage.
Well, I had one where she was like talking. So her neck was turned.
Yeah.
And so because her neck was turned, that 8 miles per hour felt more.
Yeah. So most people actually are turned. They're either looking at the radio, you know what I mean? They're looking at their mirror. They're looking up like this when they get hit. So it's not just a direct back. It's a side back.
So that's why they ask for all of that.
Yeah. And actually, I want to know, because on a side impact, what often, and I don't know if majority of doctors probably don't even know, you can get what's called an uncinate fracture on that. And that doesn't show up for 2 months. Well, Christina, if you don't know that, are you going to take an x-ray 2 months later of the neck? No, nobody does that, right? So I know on any side impact, I'm going to wait a couple months and take that x-ray to see if that uncinate is fractured.
But no one does that.
No one does that. It's very uncommon because nobody knows about it.
Right.
They know about uncinate fracture, but they don't know you have to wait 2 months. You see what I mean? For that to actually show up so you can see it. So stuff like that.
So, in the years that you've been helping people with car accidents, how do you explain to them what the best course of action for them is to get better, to get the help, to get what they need, not just to get better, but also like with everything else, not having to pay out of pocket? Like, how do you explain that? Because you get patients that have never been in an accident, right? So they don't know what to do, and they're already frustrated.
Yes. Actually, and a lot of this is the thing. These patients they get in an accident, and they're honest, right? They want to go about this in an honest way, and I have to tell them, you're dealing with the devil. You are. They don't care if you're honest. And if you use honesty with them and say, oh, just do this, and they'll do this, I said they'll just take that and just shove it down your throat, because that's not the way they work. Mm-hmm. They would make you fix your own car, even though it wasn't your fault. Yeah, that's just the way these insurance companies are.
They're so nice, so it's, I feel bad.
I feel bad. Nice. Yeah. And it's like, are you going to feel bad in 5 years when you have a degenerated disc or a bulging disc and you're in pain all the time? Is that when you're going to feel sorry also for the insurance company that, you know what I mean?
Collects all of
Yeah, exactly. So, and some people don't even want to use their own insurance. And I said, that's what you pay insurance for.
Right.
But most patients are really honest and want to go about it in an honest way. Most of the attorneys I work with are very ethical attorneys. We're not, trying to do anything outside the gray area. We're just trying to diagnose the proper injuries, get those injuries treated. That's all I care about. And I always tell them all the other stuff as far as recovery, that's not really what I'm about. I'm about making sure every injury you have is diagnosed and that it's covered. I do care about that. Right. It's covered, and you get the treatment you need, whether it's from me or whether it's from another doctor, because I have had patients that get in an accident, they hurt their shoulder, right, because they're holding the steering wheel, it gets jammed back.
And they're stiff, too.
I send them for an MRI. It's torn, and it's like, that's not me. That's the ortho. And I refer them to the ortho, and I don't see them again because it's not me.
Right.
And that's I pride myself on that, actually, because it's not about me always treating. It's about finding the right injury and getting them to the right doc. Because sometimes the inflammation is so deep down in the spine, I can't adjust it out, massage it out, exercise it out, stretch it out. It doesn't matter what we do, it's going to be there. You got to go to the pain manager. You're going to have to get the epidural or the facet injection. You just have to do it.
Right.
And some will understand, and they'll do it, and some will just say, it is a surgical procedure. It is, and some just cannot handle the fact that the needle will go down there, and they won't do it. And I said, that's okay. We diagnose it, we give you an impairment, and you're done. You're done treating at a certain point.
Right.
We'll treat you as far as we can conservatively, and just understand that that'll maybe just take a lot more time to heal and stabilize.
I have a silly question.
Yeah.
Remember the little tube? Is it like you press you press
The Activator?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to ask, what does that do?
Okay, so this is actually an interesting story because the doctor that developed the Activator method is Dr. Arlen Furr, and he is from Phoenix. So
How long ago was this?
He's retired or dead.
Okay.
I don't know. He's retired or dead. I don't remember. But Arlen Furr, so he developed this whole method of adjusting with an instrument. And that's where it started. It has progressed way beyond that now. But basically the Activator is set to a certain specific speed where we hit the joint with the Activator, and then over the next couple hours, the joint moves better. Okay, so that's the idea. Instead of me taking the actual joint and manipulating it physically, we do a low amount of force with the Activator, and we can create the same function over time. So most of the time, Activator does take a little longer than a manual adjustment, but it does work. And for patients that just can't handle it, I have a patient right now. If I touch her, she's so inflamed, you know what I mean? Just putting my hand on her, she's reacting like that. So I'm literally adjusting her with the Activator over my finger. I mean, we're just trying to get function.
I'm laughing because that was me.
Yeah, you've been there.
Me. I've been
you
there.
get hit, your body is just inflamed all over, and you're just so sensitive.
Right.
So some patients can handle the manual manipulation, and they'll be just fine after the accident, and some just can't,
right.
And especially with age. So my older patients, I work them into being more aggressive. I really do. I work them to the point where I feel like they could take it, and some never will. Some will always be just a nice, we use what we call a Thompson drop. We'll use the machine to balance the pelvis, and we'll use Activator to balance the patient functionally. And then different therapies, what I'll often do if they can't take a manual adjustment is I'll do traction. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Which is a gentle, slowly will increase the weight and get function back into the spine that way.
Well, and also with you, again, you're one of the people that taught me about chiropractic care and how it is related to everything, whether it's your sleep, your TMJ, your allergies. And so I know because some of your patients were my residents at the time when I was still a property manager,
right,
was that they saw so much value in it that they retained you for like adjustments, just, even past when they were better.
Yeah, you knew me way in the beginning. So the way in the beginning, I was more of a holistic chiro. I will say that I was. I've kind of gone away from that. From the holistic side of chiropractic, which, there is definitely a place for that. I'm more of an injury doc now, and I tell my patients that, and I will refer them if they have what I call a weird situation, because of what you're talking about. I'll often refer for a chiropractor that is more holistic than I am.
You still refer out.
I do refer out, but I still will see them. Yeah. And yes, those, adjustments, it's so weird because dysfunction can create every problem, but it's not causing all the problems. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's a story out there where adjustments cured cancer or whatever. I'm sure that occurred, but that's, dysfunction of the spine isn't all cancer related. So I don't state those things, but I do, when I treat the patient, they do tell me certain things like that. And I just say, great, that's maybe a positive side effect of joint function and proper nerve flow. I don't know.
How about, do you get adjusted?
So I do. My cousin, Dr. Klaus, will give him a shout out. He's also in Mesa. Yeah, he is my chiro. I try to get to him every 2 weeks, and I try to get a massage every couple of weeks if possible too. So with the combined when you're inactive and you're working out or you're playing whatever, those combined things are very helpful to keep the joints moving. Massage is more about blood flow. I don't think people realize that. It's actually more about blood flow than anything else. So yeah, they're working those muscles and working those knots out, but they're increasing your blood flow. Imagine the positive effects of blood flow increase, right? All the nutrients to your body, it's going to get there. All the oxygen.
It up.
You got to try, right?
Our friend Nadeem with Bake Bros, he owns Bake Bros.
Yeah.
He does yoga like non-stop. I mean,
there is so
strong.
Many, for the guys out there that are like, I'm not doing that. There is so many guys in my class and big dudes, Like, because what happens when you put on that muscle mass is you start losing your range of motion. So there's big dudes in there, big guys in there. And what they're trying to do, detox, flexibility, core strength. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not just, I would say it's almost 50-50
I think
most of the
we're
time.
going to inspire people to do yoga on this
We are.
episode,
So that's just
right?
another thing. Get adjusted, get a massage, do your hot yoga, do your weight bearing exercise. You know what I mean? It's fine to do, when I was younger, I could do weights all day and not be, and not feel like I do now. I just feel like the heavy weights for me at this point, I'm just changing that up just because I just get too sore now.
Right.
And I'm trying to change my diet and eat a little better and drink all the water. I drink a gallon a day. I've always done that. But
I need to do that. I do need to do that. I have a question because producer's telling us we don't have much time.
Okay.
So, you said you were born in Idaho.
I was born in Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa.
When my dad was at Palmer College of Chiropractic, like the original, right? In Davenport, Iowa. So, yes.
And then you were then raised here when?
Yeah, so I was literally, my family's from here, so he went back to school and then we just came back. So,
Okay.
I was born in Iowa City, Iowa, but I've lived here since I was 1,
Okay,
so
what school did you go to?
So I went to Mesa High School.
Okay.
Yeah, Jackrabbits, right? Yeah.
That's
Jackrabbits.
a true sign that you're from Mesa.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, and then what college?
So I started off at Mesa Community College. I also did Scottsdale Community College, and then I transferred over to North Lake in Texas because I was going to Parker College of Chiropractic in Texas. It's now Parker University. So I changed over to North Lake to finish my undergrad stuff so I could get into Parker, which I went, for 3 years at Parker College, which I actually really liked. I liked Dallas. I liked the college. And Dr. Mike, P, that's what I call him because his last name's too hard. Yeah. He was in school with me, so it's fun.
And then you came back here and started
here.
Yeah.
So then this is 2003. I came back and I started working with my dad, in 2003. I've been in the same location ever since.
Right, which is Stapley and...
Main and Stapley, in Mesa. So we're kind of centralized Mesa. Yep.
Yeah, you technically don't even need a sign, in my opinion, because everyone knows where LeBaron is.
Yeah. I changed my sign. This is how funny that is. I changed it recently. And for years, we've had LeBaron in red on top. And my patients that have been seeing me forever were driving by my office. That's how funny that is. You know what I mean? Because they know where my office is, but they always look for that LeBaron. So I failed them. I said, I'm sorry. Because I did change that up a little bit and from what they were used to.
Right.
I think we've been there so long. We get patients walk in and say, my friend, down the street referred me. They just walk in.
Right.
That's very common.
Yeah.
In our location, we've been there so long.
And then you have a beautiful wife. Her name is
Holland.
But everyone calls her.
No, everybody calls her Holland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except me, because I can't say that. Because Edna was like, it's because I tried to call her Holly.
Yeah, Holly or Holland. Like the country, but it's actually spelled Hollin.
Yeah, no, I won't try.
And we have 5 kids. We got lots of kids.
How old's the oldest now?
So I have a 21-year-old. I have almost all boys. I have one girl. She's in the middle. So 21, 19, and then my daughter's 16, almost 17.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then I have a 13 and a 12. But they're both, birthdays are coming up. So, 5 kids, probably a little more than most people are used to. So
is that what motivates you? Because you're pretty awesome.
Well, you gotta pay for all that stuff. Something's got to motivate you, right?
Dr.
You got to work hard because these kids are expensive.
Right.
You have 3 girls.
I do.
And girls are more expensive than boys.
Right.
For sure.
For sure.
My boys always tease that my daughter's closet is double the size of their closets. And I'm like, well, that's just life, guys. Get used to that.
Dr. LeBaron's kids, because they're all good looking, will get Post-its from girls with their Instagram handles.
That's right. I never got that stuff. So they're better looking than me, for sure.
Going back to the accident, and I know a lot of people are going to be listening to you. What is the best way, or how can you explain to people what the best way to handle those as they happen? Unfortunately, it happens.
If they get in a
Accidents.
So actually,
I mean, who has the stats for those? I feel like Kevin tried to give me the stats. It's staggering how many accidents there are.
Yeah, and actually,
so you guys have to be safe out there.
Well, and actually, they're not even labeled as accidents. So the Highway Council actually did a study, and they found that they actually changed them to collisions or crashes because they were 96% of the time due to driver error. So they're really not accidents, just that's how everybody relates to them. They're actually considered legally motor vehicle collisions or motor vehicle crashes, because that's what they really are. They're not an accident. Somebody made a mistake and it occurred.
Makes sense.
So when that happens, I always tell patients, next time, because just
And
make sure.
hopefully there isn't one.
Yes, exactly. But, make sure you're taking pictures of your car, their car. I always get my own insurance involved, whether I was at fault or not. I always say you don't want to wait to see a doctor. Either go to the urgent care that day, ER if you're bad enough, but only if you're bad enough.
Right.
You're better off going to urgent care than ER, but go to the ER if you're bad enough. And then you want to see your regular chiropractor or whatever within 48 hours of the crash. Because if you go after 48 hours, the insurance company considers that a delay in care because they're evil. And that's what we're dealing with. That's
Right.
just how they are. So if you're injured, so many people were like, I was just hoping the pain would go away. And then a week later, they're still in pain or worse.
Right.
So I always tell them, go right away.
Yeah.
At least within the first 48 hours, and get checked out by somebody. Your chiropractor if you have one, your MD even. I use quite a few medical doctors that know how to diagnose and
Shout out a couple of them.
Okay, so Dr. Nguyen is one, and he's in Mesa. Dr. Goldberg is another. He's also in Mesa. Those are the two I can think of offhand. But you can even, you can even use pain management doctors to do an evaluation. I prefer them to, even your own personal medical provider is better than no medical provider. So
better than no medical.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Obviously the other ones are more.
Yeah, the ones that I use are just
motor vehicle.
you'd be surprised. The trauma paperwork is just a little different, and the way you word things just a little different. So these docs that I just shouted out know a little bit more about documentation than your average primary care physician. But really, I want you to see somebody, whether it be the urgent care, your regular primary care, your doctor, within the first 48 hours. That's very important. And then at that point, and I do tell patients, you're probably going to want an attorney. I do say that. And the reason is because the insurance companies are not going to be fair ever. They're never
Even
fair.
when they're being nice. Or
They'll
you
pretend
think
like they're
being
nice. And I always say, yeah, they're pretending like they're nice now. But I said, in 30 days from now, they're not going to be so nice. Or in 6 months from now, they're not going to be so nice. I said, and they're writing everything down you say. They're recording everything down you say. Don't give them a statement. I always say, go through the attorney. Get the statement through the attorney. Who's going to protect you from them, basically?
Right.
And that's the majority of the time. I do give that, and I... just so they just don't get taken advantage of, which
Right.
is so common. And I've had them come in after being taken advantage of with all this pain, and it's like it's too late.
It's too late.
You have to pay now. You already signed off on that case. They talked you into it, and it's unfortunate. But and I just say the next time, this is what I want you to do,
Right.
so that you're not taken advantage of, guilt tripped into doing nothing when you are injured.
We definitely will help some people out understanding from you. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And by the way, you have a shirt coming from Real Ambition Fitness that
All
I
right.
forgot, but I did get the right size. But
You
Real
can get it to me
Ambition
eventually.
Fitness.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for being here at Connect with Christina, aka
The clout gods.
You put an S in there.
Do it
Anyway,
again.
what are we? Episode 7? He'll take that out too. Sorry. I'll clap to myself. There you go, Justin. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Episode 7, Connect with Christina, aka
The Clout God. Gotta do it again. I screwed it.
Dr. LeBaron. Thank you again for being here with me on episode 7
Thank you for having me.
at Connect with Christina, aka
The Clout God.
there you go. He got it.
Brand new biz, never ask her how she get it.